You're exhausted. It's midnight. You've been awake since 6 in the morning. And yet, the moment your head hits the pillow, your brain decides it's the perfect time to replay every conversation you had today, recalculate your finances, and solve a problem from 2 years ago.
You know what you're supposed to do. Close your eyes, breathe, relax. But the harder you try to sleep, the more awake you feel. Your body is begging for rest, and your brain is throwing a party. Why does this keep happening? And more importantly, why does trying harder to sleep actually make it worse?
Here's what I want you to understand by the end of this video. The reason you can't fall asleep is not a willpower problem. It's not a discipline problem. It's a neuroscience problem. And there are specific brain networks, stress hormones, and survival mechanisms working against you every single night.
Once you understand the machinery behind this, you can start to dismantle it. And I'm going to give you a protocol at the end of this video that you can use tonight. Not generic sleep hygiene, but interventions that target the exact neural circuits keeping you awake.
Nearly 4 in 10 adults have trouble falling asleep 3 or more nights per week. You're not broken. Your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. It's just doing it at the wrong time. Let's break down why.
During the day, your brain is busy processing external stimulation. Conversations, tasks, screens, traffic, decisions. Your attention is directed outward, and that keeps certain brain networks occupied. But the moment you lie down in a dark, quiet room and remove all that external input, something shifts. A network called the default mode network, the DMN, takes over.
The default mode network is a collection of brain regions that activate when you're not focused on the outside world. It's responsible for self-referential thinking, reflecting on the past, imagining the future, running mental simulations. It's where daydreaming lives. And it's where rumination lives too.
Here's the problem. The DMN doesn't have an off switch you can consciously flip. When external stimulation drops, it fills the vacuum. This is why lying in silence feels louder than being in a noisy room. Your brain isn't turning on at bedtime. It's been on all day. You just couldn't hear it over everything else.
And for people who carry stress, unresolved problems, or anxiety, the DMN doesn't just wander. It spirals. It replays. It rehearses worst-case scenarios. Not because you want it to, but because that's what an unchecked default mode network does when there's nothing else competing for bandwidth.
Here's a scenario you might recognize. It's Sunday night. You have a big Monday ahead. You know you need sleep more than any other night of the week. And that knowledge, that pressure, is exactly what keeps you awake. You lie there calculating how many hours you'll get if you fall asleep right now. Then you recalculate 5 minutes later. The DMN isn't just wandering. It's fixating on the one thing guaranteed to keep it running, the fear of not sleeping.
This is the default mode network in overdrive, but it's not working alone. There's a second player making your nights worse, your amygdala.
The amygdala is your brain's threat detection center. It scans for danger, flags emotional events, and triggers your fight or flight response. During a normal day, your prefrontal cortex, the rational, executive part of your brain, keeps the amygdala in check. It says, yes, that email was stressful, but we're not in danger. Stand down.
Now, here's what happens when you're sleep deprived, even mildly. A 2007 study led by Sung-Shik Yu at Harvard and UC Berkeley found that after just 1 night of poor sleep, amygdala reactivity to negative emotional stimuli increased by 60%. 60%. And it gets worse. The connection between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, that rational oversight, weakened significantly, meaning your emotional brain was running 60% hotter, and the part of your brain responsible for calming it down had gone partially offline.
This creates a vicious feedback loop. You had a stressful day. Your amygdala is already running warm. You lie down to sleep, and instead of calming down, your stress hormones, cortisol and norepinephrine, stay elevated. Your brain interprets the quiet, dark room not as safe, but as the moment when unresolved threats finally get your full attention.
And here's the part most people miss. Cortisol isn't just a daytime hormone. If your stress response was activated during the day and never properly discharged, cortisol lingers into the night. It keeps your brain in a state of vigilant alertness. Your heart rate stays slightly elevated. Your muscles hold tension, and your thoughts race, because your brain genuinely believes something out there still needs solving. You're not choosing to overthink. Your neurochemistry is keeping you in threat detection mode.
Now, most people think the solution is to try harder. Focus on your breathing, force your eyes shut, count sheep, will yourself to sleep. But here's where it gets counterintuitive, and this is one of the most well-documented findings in sleep medicine. Trying harder to fall asleep activates the very stress response that prevents sleep.
Sleep researchers call this the sleep-effort paradox. The moment you start monitoring whether you're falling asleep, am I asleep yet? Why am I still awake? It's been 20 minutes. You engage your prefrontal cortex in active problem-solving mode. That sends a signal to your brain that something needs to be fixed, which elevates arousal, which produces more cortisol, which makes sleep even less likely. It's like trying to make yourself relax by screaming "relax" at your own nervous system. The effort itself is the obstacle.
This is why your bed can become associated with anxiety over time. If you spend enough nights lying awake, frustrated, and stressed, your brain starts encoding the bed itself as a threat environment. You walk into your bedroom and your heart rate goes up. Not because the room is dangerous, but because your brain has paired it with the experience of failed sleep.
Sleep researchers at Oxford and Harvard have documented this pattern extensively. It's the core mechanism behind chronic insomnia, and it's why cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBT-I, is now considered the gold standard treatment, outperforming sleeping pills in long-term studies. Not because it teaches you to try harder, but because it teaches you to stop trying. We'll come back to that.
Let me show you why this matters beyond just feeling tired the next day. When you can't sleep, you're not just losing rest, you're losing the most biologically active period your brain has.
During deep non-REM sleep, your hippocampus replays the day's experiences, transferring memories to your cortex for long-term storage. A 2024 study from Cornell University confirmed that specific neurons go quiet during deep sleep to reset their capacity, literally making room for new learning the next day. Skip that process, and you don't just feel foggy, you lose what you learned, and you lose the ability to learn as effectively tomorrow.
During REM sleep, your brain processes emotional experiences from the day. It strips the emotional charge from difficult memories so you can recall them without reliving the pain. Without adequate REM, unprocessed emotions accumulate, which feeds right back into that amygdala reactivity we talked about.
And then there's the cleaning. While you sleep, your brain activates the glymphatic system, a waste clearance network that flushes out toxic metabolic byproducts, including amyloid beta and tau proteins. These are the same proteins that accumulate in Alzheimer's disease. A landmark 2026 study published in Nature Communications, led by Jeffrey Iliff at the University of Washington, provided the first direct human evidence that sleep-active glymphatic transport clears these proteins from brain to bloodstream.
One night of sleep deprivation was shown in a 2018 PNAS study to measurably increase amyloid beta accumulation in the hippocampus and thalamus. One night. Your brain literally cannot clean itself when you're lying awake anxious. And here's the cumulative cost. Research by Hans von Dongen, published in the journal Sleep, found that after just 10 days of sleeping 7 hours per night, not 5, not 6, 7, the brain performs as if it has been awake for 24 hours straight. And the subjects in the study couldn't tell they were impaired. They rated their cognitive function as normal. The most dangerous thing about chronic sleep loss is that you lose the ability to perceive how much it's costing you.
So here's the part you've been waiting for. What do you actually do about this? I'm not going to give you a list of obvious tips you've already heard. No put your phone down lecture, no lavender pillow spray. What I'm going to give you is a protocol that targets the 3 specific mechanisms we've been talking about: the default mode network, the amygdala cortisol loop, and the sleep effort paradox.
The reason your DMN spirals at night is that unprocessed thoughts have nowhere else to go. Research on expressive writing, originally by James Pennebaker at the University of Texas, shows that spending 10 to 15 minutes writing down your thoughts, worries, and unfinished tasks before bed significantly reduces sleep onset latency. Not journaling in a structured way, just dumping. Get it out of your head
and onto paper.
A 2018 study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology found that writing a specific to-do list for the next day, not a general worry dump, but concrete tasks, helped participants fall asleep significantly faster than those who wrote about completed activities. The act of externalizing unfinished business tells your DMN, "This is handled. You can stand down." Your amygdala and cortisol levels need a deliberate cool down before sleep. The most evidence-backed method for this is physiological sighing, a breathing pattern studied by Andrew Huberman's lab at Stanford. One deep inhale through the nose, a second short inhale to fully expand the lungs, then a long, slow exhale through the mouth. Even 1 to 3 minutes of this has been shown to reduce autonomic arousal more effectively than meditation or box breathing.
The reason this works neurologically is that the extended exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system and directly inhibits the sympathetic fight or flight response. You're not telling your brain to relax. You're mechanically switching the nervous system state.
Combine this with lowering your room temperature to between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. Core body temperature needs to drop by about 2 degrees for sleep onset. Research published in Cell in 2024 showed that the norepinephrine oscillations that drive glymphatic brain cleaning are strongest during cool, deep NREM sleep. You're not just falling asleep faster, you're optimizing the cleaning cycle.
This is the hardest one, and the most important. You need to break the association between your bed and the anxiety of failed sleep. The protocol for cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is straightforward. If you've been lying in bed for more than 20 minutes and you're not asleep, get up. Go to another room. Do something quiet and unstimulating. Read a physical book under dim light. Listen to calm audio. Do not check your phone. And only go back to bed when you feel genuinely sleepy, not just tired. This feels counterintuitive. You think staying in bed gives you the best chance of sleeping. But the neuroscience says otherwise. Every minute you spend awake in bed strengthens the neuroassociation between bed and wakefulness. Getting up breaks that association. Over time, your brain relearns that bed means sleep, not struggle.
And here's one more thing most people don't know. If you wake up between 2 and 4 in the morning with your heart pounding and your mind racing, the infamous 3 a.m. wake up, that's not random. That's a cortisol surge. Your cortisol levels naturally begin rising in the second half of the night as part of your circadian rhythm, preparing you to wake up. But if your baseline cortisol is already elevated from chronic stress, that natural rise pushes you over the waking threshold hours too early. The fix is the same. Discharge stress before bed, cool the room, and if you wake up, don't fight it in bed. Get up, do something boring, and return when the wave passes.
Here's what I want you to take away from this. Your racing thoughts at night are not a character flaw. They're the predictable output of a default mode network that fills silence, an amygdala that never fully stood down from the day, and a stress response that's still running in the background. You don't fix this by trying harder. You fix it by understanding the machinery and intervening at the right points. Tonight, try this. 15 minutes before bed, write down every unfinished thought and tomorrow's to-do list. Then do 2 minutes of physiological sighing. Double inhale, long exhale. And if you're not asleep in 20 minutes, get up. Break the pattern. Your brain isn't broken. It just needs a different signal.
If this changed how you think about sleep, subscribe to Quantum Self. Every video here is built the same way. Understand the neuroscience, then use it to reprogram how you think, feel, and perform. Next week, we're going deeper into what your brain actually does while you sleep. The rewiring, the memory replay, the emotional processing. It's stranger than you think. Until then, take care of your brain tonight. It's the only one you've got.